I'm Dan Corey.
And I'm Ellen Corey, and we garden for people and wildlife here on Longleaf Dharma Farm in Tifton.
Welcome to this episode of Katy on the Farm. We're outside Tifton, Georgia at the home of Dan and Ellen Corey. Their farm is Longleaf Dharma Farm, and it's absolutely beautiful. We're excited to see what they're doing with this space to restore the natural ecosystems. So come along. We're here at Longleaf Dharma Farm outside Tifton, Georgia with Ellen and Dan Corey to talk about what we can all do to live a more sustainable lifestyle, to restore our ecosystems, and about the systems they're using to grow some of their food. Ellen, Dan, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. It's absolutely beautiful here. I can't wait to show everyone around. So can you start us off? What brought you here?
Well, this is actually where my grandparents lived when I was growing up, and I grew up on the other side of the farm, just, I don't know, like 3 miles, 2 miles away. So I've always gardened and loved being out in nature and loved sharing that with Dan. And my father died, and we actually moved down to kind of help my mother, but I also was very happy with the opportunity to have a huge, for me, you know, for most people, a huge piece of land to just garden on. And so that's kind of the story of how we ended up here. But I've been coming here since I was a very young child and love being back.
Yeah.
Have great memories.
It's a returning for you.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
And Dan, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, I came down here when I got my first job teaching English at the college here at ABAC. And so I taught here for 10 years, and soon after moving here I met Ellen. We got married, and we moved to Atlanta for 20 years. But then when her father died, we moved back. And so we love living in the city, but we really love being down here close to nature, and we both love nature quite a bit. And we would like to see nature do better than it is able to in many cases these days. And so we're enjoying being here, planting and enjoying being among birds and trees and what Ellen grows in her garden.
That's lovely. So when you arrived, I'm assuming this wasn't cultivated and planted and stewarded in this manner. Can you tell us what it was like when you got here and kind of what that process was like for you?
Well, we were really lucky that it's not a human food garden, but in front of the house is 10 acres of longleaf that was tended. My grandfather and then my father burned it every year, and which is a really unusual thing these days. People don't like prescribed fire. Some people don't as much, and they kept burning it. And so we've got this lovely 10 acres of a longleaf understory. But then out here, as far as a food garden, we didn't have anything. And my 90-something-year-old mother and I got out and dug up a bunch of grass and started, planting things. And I think I do a lot more gardening for wildlife now, really. But we've got a good farmer's market here, and Dan and I try to support that as much as we can. And we're realizing that we weren't buying as much at the market because we were growing it. So I'm happy to garden for butterflies and pollinators and but we have to have a few fresh tomatoes and things like that.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, it's certainly lovely. So what's your guiding principle when you decide what to do with the land? We're going to walk through the pines and have that explained. And I know you'd mentioned turtles. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you are now in this?
Okay, well, Ellen has been gardening a good bit around the house here, planting a lot of edible trees and bushes, and so it's quite different. Her father was a farmer, but around the house here he really just had a lot of azalea bushes, and that was it. And so anyway, Ellen has planted all sorts of things you can see here, from fig trees, blueberries, apples, pawpaws, and on, peaches, and her garden right around here off the porch is, all edible. And but we also are very interested in longleaf pine, and as a lot of your viewers might know, longleaf used to cover 60% of the entire South, and it was 98% wiped out in the last century and a half. And so people are interested in bringing back longleaf now, and we were too. So we planted 60 acres of longleaf and some understory across the pond here, and that was something we really wanted to do. And we also thinned out some existing slash pine that her father had planted about 25 years ago. I guess really more like 35 now at this point. And we thinned it to a density so it would be hospitable for wildlife. And so we've had a lot of gopher tortoises that have really populated there, and a lot of birds have been showing up. We see a lot of deer when we walk around the fire break, and it's just wonderful.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Thank you for sharing with us. Let's go take a look.
Great.
Okay,
All
great.
right, thanks. Hi, I'm Katy Rogers. I hope you'll be right back after this message to join me. I'm here with Ellen and Dan Corey, and could you tell us where we're standing and why it's significant?
Okay, well, we're very fortunate to live in what is called a remnant site of longleaf pine, and it's about 10 acres of old longleaf pine and undisturbed understory with just all of the ensemble of wildflowers and native grasses, wiregrass, that grew throughout the South before European contact. And 98% of this ecosystem was wiped out in the past century and a half through people logging and clearing land for farms, for towns, for roads, and all of that. And so it really got pretty much destroyed. But the longleaf pine is a wonderful, wonderful tree that, it's just the more you learn about it, the more wonderful it becomes. And the native understory is just so dense and diverse, it's incredible. And so this is just a little area that is on Ellen's inherited farm that we're just so fortunate to have been able to come here to live and live next to it. And when I walk out to the mailbox every day through this, I can't believe it. It's like a dream. And so we've been burning it and taking care of it. You have to burn off the understory because that's what keeps its fire evolved and adapted. So all the plants that grow here love fire. And if it weren't burned, other plants would come in and take over. And in the past, fire would just come through a dry lightning strike, and because longleaf just stretched throughout the entire south, a very slow fire would move along day after day after day for miles and miles and miles. But now when you have small fragments like this one is, we have to come in and burn it ourselves. Lightning's not likely to find it. And so we burn it every other year, every April, and that keeps it coming back and keeps it fresh and alive.
That's interesting. And Ellen, what are all these plants that are native?
Well, right there I see, if I can, this is a native blueberry. There's many different species of wild native blueberries. There's goat's rue. Nothing's flowering right now that I see, but we're very, very lucky to have wiregrass here, and that is a sign that this was never plowed. And the wiregrass really carries the fire well. And in the fall, if you burn wiregrass, it will flower. And in the fall, we've got more wiregrass up front, but there's just this fountain effect, and it's just this gorgeous sea of this fountain of wiregrass. And at a square meter, the longleaf ecosystem at a square meter is as diverse as the Amazon rainforest.
Wow.
Yeah,
Right here in South Georgia.
and people in America, we learn about the Amazon rainforest, we don't learn about the longleaf ecosystem. And it's one of many ecosystems that we're losing that's, we don't even know what we're losing. So it's just a joy every morning to see what's blooming. There is the butterfly weed, Asclepias, up there that's a good plant for monarch butterflies. I see one blooming up there. So we're really lucky. I do have to give a shout out to the Abraham Baldwin Forestry Department. Their fire ecology class has been coming out and helping us burn in April. So the kids get experience burning and we get help, making sure the fire goes well. So we're very appreciative of that with them.
That's a good symbiotic relationship
yes,
right there, right?
It's
Community.
It's a very good community, yeah. So. But it's a real treat. We've been hearing the bobwhite call this morning, and that's something that, I grew up with were bobwhite quail, and then were on the decline, and now they're coming back. And so I feel like, Dan and I walk every day, and we get lagniappes every day, little gifts. So, we see the bobwhite or see a deer or see something wonderful blooming, and so we try to burn this and take care of things, and then we get these gifts in return. So
that's a lovely, lovely scenario, and it's certainly a lovely space. We're glad that you've preserved this and are stewarding it so that you can have this natural ecosystem and this little pocket of native, right? Yeah. All right, well, thank you for sharing this with us. Hi, I'm Katy Rogers. I hope you'll be right back after this message to join me. Ellen, your yard is so lovely. What are these grasses?
Well, these are all native grasses. I've got wiregrass here, miscanthus, river oats. And so Dan and I, instead of cutting it back this year, we burned this off at 1st of May, raked the pine straw up, got the hoses out and did our little prescribed burn here, and they seem to have loved it. And that's the way you get wiregrass to flower. So I'm very happy with how that's turned out, and I'm hoping it'll fill in more. And you'll see over here that I am not a natives only person. As long as I live in the South, I'm going to have camellias. they're great cover for birds, and they're not invasive. They don't spread. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Oh, that's good to know. No, we love our camellias. And what have we here?
These are our olives that we just love, and they started bearing last year. These are all, I got these when they were very little at Georgia Olive Growers about maybe 12 years ago now. Georgia Olive Growers, the nursery was selling them very, very small at that point. And so these are all Arbequina, and got our first batch last year. And this was the only tree that bore fruit last year, but the others are bearing, and so I'm very excited about that. I really, even if they don't have fruit, they're just such a beautiful tree. So I'm very excited about how they're turning out.
They are lovely, and they seem pretty heavily laden right now with the fruit.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out the best way to pick them. I got up on the ladder last year with a basket, and I'm gonna have to tie something to my body or something. They sure don't shake off like I thought they would, but they're worth it. They're worth it. I got to brine some, and they're really good. So
that's wonderful. Yes, they are delicious. I appreciate you sharing those with us. So what time of year do they come in?
Well, they're just starting now. Probably a week or so ago, they've really grown, and then I'm bad about remembering, but it was much like early fall, I think, that they were finally ripe. I'm still learning, to tell when they were changing colors, and they didn't do it all at once. So just figuring out when the optimal time to pick is, because there were still some green ones, but I was afraid I was losing some.
So they began coming in late May.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just so lucky that I'm not a commercial grower trying to do this to support myself, because I can just enjoy it, and kind of just enjoy the process of figuring things out and not worry too much about if I don't get it just right. So,
well, they're beautiful trees, and I'm glad that it has been a successful experiment for you. Do you ever see any wildlife out here? Does this have any predator that has been an issue? Are you competing with birds for these olives?
Not yet, and that'll be interesting to see if with that pit, I haven't seen the birds going after them yet, like they do the persimmons and other things. So we'll see. They nest in it, that's for sure. That's good. And that's one thing for me, like I said, with the camellias, anything that provides cover for the birds, nesting habitat, I'm happy to share. I'm very happy to share. So
I think that's a great attitude. Would you mind taking us back and showing us your tortoises?
We would love to do that. We can look at some other things on the way.
That'd be great. Thank you. This is a lovely space, Ellen. Pomegranates, I recognize this.
Beautiful soft-seeded pomegranate. The same person that gave me that one gave me these two white pomegranates, and I don't know if they're going to produce white pomegranates, but they've got these beautiful flowers. So I'm, happy to keep seeing what happens. The flowers are so pretty. I'll be fine to keep them even if I don't get fruit. But
they are.
This tree makes up for it because it's so such good fruit, and hummingbirds love the flowers on pomegranates. So that's all. It's good for wildlife and for us to enjoy. So.
Oh, it's beautiful. And what have we here?
That's a fig tree. That's a LSU purple fig tree. We've got a few other fig trees on down, but this one is really good. Dan can just come right outside his study and eat it.
Candy off the branch.
Yes, candy off the branch. So I dry them and pickle them, and I come out here a lot. We have friends who are entomologists at the experiment station, and I love figs because you'll have one fig with just all these insects on it, different insects, and so I take pictures and send them to an entomologist friend so she can ID the insects for me.
That's fascinating.
Yes.
And they do love figs. We had that experience as well with the children getting to see the figs as they opened. And
yeah, I always thump it if I'm going and make sure there's not a wasp in there.
We do the same thing. This is an important tip, is to thump it. Absolutely.
Just to make sure. We can come out this way and go back around and look at some more figs.
I wish I'd come 2 weeks later and I could eat those.
Yes, the figs will be ready soon.
Yes, and I love all the rosemary.
Well, in elderberry now, I pick the elderberries and make syrup, and I love those. I'm going to learn how to do something with the flowers eventually. Yes.
Yes, the mulberries are very nice.
Yes, so these are figs here. There's a row of figs, and then I have some more pomegranates and olives just kind of spread around in there.
Oh, I like this out here.
This is one. See, we had a tree that fell on that fig, but it's coming back. So,
They do bounce back, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
We've hit some with mowers.
These are all different figs. This is actually a fig. I took a cutting. There was a fig behind this little house right on the septic tank. And it was huge, but we knew we had to cut it down. And Dan especially loved those figs. So I took cuttings and have them out a couple of others. But this came from our farmer's market. Those are all a different variety of figs. A Meyer lemon tree, which did not produce for 4 years, and there's 2 of them, and I told them that if they did not produce, I was cutting them down, and they started producing.
They're making up for that.
Yes, they are.
Looks like it's going to break. Wow.
Yeah, they're really good. I did that salt preserved, and we get local chickens, and just put the lemons on. This is the best kumquat ever. It's a miwa. Got it from a man in Columbus who grew up in Tifton and does all kinds of neat fruit trees. And now we actually can grow bananas in Georgia. These are the short days, is that the right word? I can't think. But anyway, they mature. It's not that they overwinter, but they grow enough in one season. And they produce. And the hurricane got the bunches this past year, but we've gotten bananas for the past 2 years. They're a short dessert banana, venti coho, and they're great. And they're the wind, when they get taller and the sound of the wind in the banana leaves is just wonderful.
That's neat. And we have a long enough growing season for that. What do you do if they aren't ripe?
Well, a friend from Mexico told me I take a big plastic bag and I cut a hole in the bottom so there's water doesn't collect, and then I tie it around the bunch of bananas. And we actually several years ago picked bananas on Christmas Eve. I'd had it in a plastic bag and it ripened. So it was a real treat, that's for sure. Bananas are great.
They're wonderful.
Yes, there's a man that is here at the experiment station, Greg Fonza, that's one of the things he works on are bananas, and is a big advocate for growing bananas in Georgia. So, yes, there's a lot we can grow.
All the time.
Yes.
Shall we walk across the dam and see if we can see some gopher tortoise birds?
Let's do that. Hi, I'm Katy Rogers. I hope you'll be right back after this message to join me. So, I haven't seen a gopher tortoise in a while. What do they look like? How do I know if that's what I'm looking at or if I'm trying to, say, rescue a turtle on the side of the road?
Well, a gopher tortoise and a turtle are not that different looking. A gopher tortoise can be anywhere when they're born. They're very small, and they can grow to be pretty large, maybe about this size in maturity. And they some people think like a desert tortoise, rather than a normal turtle like a box turtle or a painted turtle that you would see. And it's really important to know that they do not want to be in the water. So if you think you're going to you have a turtle or a tortoise and you're not sure what it is, you do not want, if you think it could possibly be a gopher tortoise, to put it into a pond, because it's not meant to swim. It doesn't know how to swim.
That's important information.
It is.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, I hope we get to see one at some point.
Maybe so.
So this is a gopher tortoise hole here. And so gopher tortoises are really important. They're called a keystone species because they dig out these huge burrows that go down 20, 30 feet into the ground. Wow. And a lot of other animals will share the hole with them, from snakes to mice to crickets and on and on and on. And especially when the forest is on fire, a lot of animals will go into the burrows to survive.
Oh, wow.
And so you can always know how long the gopher tortoise is that made a particular burrow, because they turn around all the time to push the dirt out. And so that gopher tortoise is as long as that burrow opening is.
Well, I did not know any of that, and I have lived near these.
And this is the apron, this front part, and that's where they'll, if this one was to lay eggs, they would be there in the apron. They're just totally unprotected. I read recently that a gopher tortoise needs to live to be about 50 years old to actually reproduce an offspring that reaches maturity, because they lay a lot of eggs. I should know how many and I don't, but they're just so vulnerable to predators. And armadillos in particular, another invasive, are just deadly for them. So
yeah, I've seen a lot more armadillos than I have gopher tortoises.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so why is this their habitat, and is there anything that can be done to protect or encourage that?
Well, they like sandy soil because it's easy for them to dig in. They have, they're those almost paddles for, feet. But armadillos, they're just killing the predators. It's just like with quail and other animals that have made a resurgence if people get together and take care of the predators. And especially something like an armadillo that's not, this is not their native habitat. It's
providing a safe space.
Yeah, okay. I can't, because I've found eggs here, and just could not. I actually talked to someone who knows more about gopher tortoises than I do, and she didn't really have good suggestions, because you can imagine trying to fence this off in some kind of way that the gopher tortoise could still get in and out.
Right.
I had quite a contraption here with chicken wire that I'm sure did no one any good and probably did a lot of harm, but and still didn't save the eggs. So, but they're an amazing creatures, especially the large ones that we have.
And since we thinned out this stand here, the numbers have just really, really increased. There are these burrows all over this parcel. And this is a sand hill, so all of this is very attractive habitat for them.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they think this firebreak is like their little freeway, and they like this. This is there's about 30 acres of slash here that we do prescribe burn on, and the ABAC fire ecology class helps us with that too. And it's just amazing, because this is planted slash. My father ran cows through here, and there's still the understories coming back. There's wiregrass, there's Indian grass, there's quite a few just natives that are doing really well since we've been burning.
Well, that's exciting. I'll pay more attention looking for this now, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I'm shocked by how deep they can go.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
It makes me claustrophobic. All right, well, thank you for sharing this with us. It's a beautiful walk.
It is.
I hope everyone gets
walk
to
here most
experience
days.
this. Yeah. Ellen, Dan, thank you so much for having us out today. This has been quite the experience.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been lovely having you here.
Thank you, thank you. We certainly appreciate what you're doing. I know a lot of us would like to emulate on some scale. And I hope you enjoyed today and enjoyed this episode. And we want to invite you back next time to Katy on the Farm.